Michael Jackson was in the middle of Earth's Song at Wembley Stadium when the first raindrop hit his face. Within seconds, the sky opened up and rain began pouring down in sheets. The technical crew immediately radioed to stop the show. 90,000 people screamed for Michael to get off the electrified stage. But Michael Jackson looked up at the sky, saw something that made him stop breathing, and instead of running to safety, he spread his arms wide and kept dancing in the rain. What Michael saw in those storm clouds would haunt him for the rest of his life and inspire the most spiritual performance he would ever give. Let me take you back to July 30th, 1997, to understand how a summer storm and impossible vision created a moment that 90,000 witnesses would never forget. It was the History World Tour at Wembley Stadium in London. This wasn't just another concert. This was Michael's first major tour in years, his grand return after a period of intense media scrutiny and personal struggles. Everything had to be perfect. The production was massive, the choreography was flawless, the energy was electric. The weather forecast that morning had been clear. Sunny skies, perfect conditions. Michael's team had checked and rechecked. This was an outdoor stadium. Weather was everything, and everything looked perfect. But at 8:47 p.m., as Michael was performing Earth Song, one of the most powerful and emotional songs of his repertoire, the sky began to change. Michael was standing center stage, his arms outstretched, singing about the devastation of the planet, about what we've done to the Earth. The choreography called for massive screens behind him, showing images of deforestation, pollution, animals in danger. What about sunrise? What about rain? What about all the things that you said we were to gain? As Michael sang those words, as the word rain left his lips, the first drop fell. Then another. Then another. Within 30 seconds, the sky darkened dramatically. Storm clouds that hadn't been there moments before rolled in with impossible speed. And then the rain came. Not a gentle drizzle, a torrential downpour. The technical director, James Morrison, immediately saw the danger. They were working with massive amounts of electrical equipment. The stage was wired with thousands of watts of power. Microphones, speakers, lighting rigs, video screens, all of it conducting electricity. Rain and electricity was a deadly combination. James grabbed the radio. "Michael, we need to stop. Now. This is dangerous. We need to get you off that stage." But Michael didn't move. He was standing center stage, rain pouring down his face, his arms still outstretched, staring up at the sky. "Michael, did you copy? We need to evacuate the stage. This is a safety emergency." Still, Michael didn't move. The backup dancers, sensing something was wrong, stopped their choreography. They looked at each other, confused, then began moving toward the wings to get out of the rain. But Michael stayed exactly where he was, frozen, staring upward. Karen Fay, Michael's longtime makeup artist who was watching from the side of the stage, felt a chill run down her spine. She'd worked with Michael for 15 years. She knew every expression, every gesture, every mood. And the look on Michael's face right now was something she'd never seen before. It wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was awe. Pure, overwhelming. What is he looking at? Karen whispered to the assistant next to her. The 90,000 people in the stadium were getting soaked. People were opening umbrellas, pulling on raincoats, some were running for covered areas. But most stayed in their seats, watching Michael stand motionless on stage, rain pouring over him, his white shirt becoming transparent, his hair plastered to his face. The band had stopped playing, uncertain what to do. The backing track was still running, but without Michael's voice, it sounded empty. "Michael!" James's voice came through the stage monitors. "Urgent now. Michael, you need to move. Lightning has been spotted. This is life-threatening. Please respond." And then finally Michael moved, but he didn't run off stage. Instead, he slowly lowered his arms, brought the microphone to his lips, and spoke. "Don't stop the music," Michael said, his voice quiet but clear. "Please, don't stop. Michael, we have to." "I said don't stop the music." Michael's voice was firmer now, but still calm. "Something's happening. I need you to trust me. Keep the cameras on the sky. Everyone needs to see this." The cameraman, confused but following orders, tilted their cameras upward, pointing at the storm clouds above the stadium. And that's when 90,000 people saw what Michael had been staring at. In the swirling storm clouds, illuminated by flashes of lightning, there was a formation, a shape, and it looked impossibly, unmistakably like a face. Not just any face, the face of a child. Eyes closed, peaceful as if sleeping. The features were defined by the density of the clouds, the lighter areas forming the face, the darker areas creating the shadows that gave it depth and dimension. The stadium fell into stunned silence. Even the rain seemed to quiet. 90,000 people stared upward at this impossible vision in the sky. Karen Fay grabbed the arm of the person next to her. "Are you seeing this?" "I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it." Michael stood on stage, rain pouring over him, tears now mixing with the rainwater on his face. He raised his arms again, this time not in performance, but in a gesture of reaching, of connection. "Keep filming," Michael said into his microphone. "Everyone look up. Really look." The massive video screens on stage, which had been showing Michael's performance, now switched to live camera feeds pointed at the sky. The face in the clouds appeared on the screens, massive and clear, visible to everyone in the stadium. Then Michael did something that nobody expected. He began to sing again, but not Earth Song. He began singing Gone Too Soon, a song he'd written about children lost too early, about lives cut short, about the pain of saying goodbye to innocence. Like a comet blazing across the evening sky. Gone too soon. As Michael sang, the rain continued to pour. But something strange was happening. The face in the clouds was changing, evolving. The closed eyes seemed to open slightly. The peaceful expression seemed to shift towards something else. A smile, maybe, or perhaps just a trick of the moving clouds and the lightning flashes. But 90,000 people saw it. The cameras captured it, and nobody could explain it. Michael sang the entire song in the pouring rain on a dangerously electrified stage, refusing every plea from his technical crew to seek safety. He sang to the face in the clouds. He sang with his arms outstretched, water streaming from his fingers, his voice breaking with emotion. When the song ended, Michael lowered his arms and spoke directly to the audience. "Do you see what I see?" His voice was barely above a whisper, but the microphone caught every word. 90,000 voices responded. "Yes, that's a child," Michael said, his voice breaking. "That's innocence. That's purity. That's everything we're destroying and everything we need to save." Michael paused, looking up at the face one more time. "I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is a message or a coincidence or my imagination. But I know what it feels like. It feels like being seen. It feels like being reminded why we're here." He turned back to the audience. "We're not here for the show. We're here for this moment, for this connection, for this reminder that something bigger than us is watching, waiting, hoping we'll do better." As Michael spoke, the rain began to slow. The face in the clouds started to dissipate, the features fading as the storm moved and the cloud formations shifted. Within minutes, the face was gone completely. The rain stopped, the clouds parted, and impossibly, the evening sun broke through, casting golden light across the stadium. The 90,000 people in Wembley Stadium erupted in the loudest ovation in the venue's history. It wasn't applause for a performance. It was a collective release of emotion, of awe, of the overwhelming feeling of having witnessed something unexplainable. Michael stood on stage, soaking wet, exhausted, and crying. His technical crew rushed out with towels, with dry clothes, with concerns about hypothermia and electric shock. But Michael waved them away. "Give me 5 minutes," he said. "I need 5 minutes to understand what just happened." Michael walked to the front of the stage and sat down, his legs hanging over the edge, and just looked out at the 90,000 people who had shared this experience with him. "Thank you," he said simply. "Thank you for seeing it with me. Thank you for not running away. Thank you for believing that magic is real." After the concert, Michael couldn't stop talking about what had happened. His crew tried to rationalize it. "It was just cloud formations, Michael. Pareidolia, the brain seeing faces in random patterns." But Michael shook his head. You weren't standing where I was standing. You weren't feeling what I was feeling. That wasn't random. That was meant to happen. Karen Faye sat with Michael in his dressing room as he toweled off and changed into dry clothes. Michael, what do you think it was? Michael was quiet for a long time. I think it was every child who's suffered because of what we've done to this planet. Every child who's died too young. Every innocent soul that needed someone to see them, to acknowledge them, to promise to do better. He paused. I've been performing Earth Song for months. I've sung those words hundreds of times. But tonight, when I sang What About Rain, the rain came. And in that rain, in those clouds, I saw every face of every child I've ever tried to help. I saw them all at once. And they were asking me, are you still fighting for us? Do you still see us? Karen felt tears in her eyes. And what did you tell them? I kept dancing, Michael said. I stayed on that stage when everyone told me to run. Because that's what you do when someone needs you to see them. You don't run away because it's dangerous. You stay. You witness. You promise. The video footage from that night at Wembley Stadium became legendary. Every major news outlet analyzed it. Meteorologists tried to explain the face in the clouds. Skeptics called it mass hysteria. Believers called it a miracle. But 90,000 people who were there that night, they didn't need explanations. They knew what they saw. They knew what they felt. In the days following the concert, something remarkable happened. Michael's Earth Song, which had been a moderate hit, suddenly shot to #1 in 32 countries. But more importantly, environmental organizations reported a massive spike in donations, in volunteer sign-ups, in youth engagement. People who had been at Wembley Stadium that night started environmental programs in their communities. They planted trees in honor of the child in the clouds. They organized cleanup efforts. They educated others about climate change. One woman, Sandra Harrison, who had been sitting in section 143, started a foundation called the Rainchild Project dedicated to helping children affected by environmental disasters. I saw that face, Sandra said. I saw it as clearly as I see my own children's faces. And I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just witness that and then do nothing. The foundation has since helped over 50,000 children in disaster-affected areas around the world. Michael Jackson never stopped talking about that night. In interviews for the rest of his life, he would reference it. There are moments when the universe speaks to us, Michael said in a 1999 interview. Most of the time we're too busy or too distracted to listen. But on July 30th, 1997, 90,000 people stopped everything and listened. And we all heard the same thing. The earth is crying. The children are crying. And we need to answer that cry. But here's the part of the story that most people don't know. 3 days after the Wembley concert, Michael received a letter at his hotel. It was from a woman named Elizabeth Morrison, a meteorologist who had been in the audience that night with her 8-year-old daughter, Claire. Elizabeth wrote, Mr. Jackson, I am a scientist. I don't believe in signs or miracles. I believe in data and rational explanation. But I was at your concert on July 30th, and I need to tell you something that I cannot explain scientifically. My daughter Claire died 2 years ago from leukemia. She was 6 years old. In your song Gone Too Soon, there's a line, shiny and sparkly and splendidly bright. That was my nickname for Claire. I called her my splendidly bright girl. I never told anyone that. It was our private name. When you sang that song to the face in the clouds, my daughter sitting next to me, my other daughter Emma, grabbed my hand and said, Mommy, that's Claire in the clouds. She came to see us. Mr. Jackson, the face in those clouds looked exactly like my Claire. Same eyes, same peaceful expression. I have spent 2 years trying to scientifically understand death, trying to rationalize my loss, try to explain to Emma where her sister went. And then you stood in the rain and sang to the sky. And for 3 minutes, I saw my daughter again. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I saw her. And she was at peace. Thank you for not running off that stage. Thank you for staying. Thank you for seeing what we all needed to see. Michael kept that letter for the rest of his life. It was found in his bedroom at Neverland Ranch after he died, along with dozens of other letters from people who had been at Wembley Stadium that night, all describing similar experiences of seeing lost loved ones in the face in the clouds. When Michael Jackson died in 2009, thousands of people gathered at Wembley Stadium for an impromptu memorial. In an occurrence that cannot be explained, as people sang Earth Song together, it began to rain, just for the duration of the song. And then it stopped. Several people claimed to see faces in the clouds that day too. Whether they did or didn't, whether it was real or collective grief, doesn't matter as much as what happened next. The people at that memorial didn't run from the rain. They stood in it. They kept singing. They promised to keep seeing, keep fighting, keep believing. Today, there's a plaque outside Wembley Stadium that reads, "On July 30th, 1997, Michael Jackson performed in the rain and saw the face of a child in the storm clouds. 90,000 witnesses shared his vision. This moment reminds us that the earth speaks to those brave enough to listen, even in the storm." Every year on July 30th, environmental groups gather at Wembley Stadium to sing Earth Song and to remember the night when nature, music, and human consciousness aligned to create a moment of impossible beauty. The story of Michael Jackson dancing in the rain teaches us something profound about courage, about attention, about the choice to stay present even when everything tells us to run. Michael could have evacuated that stage. Any rational person would have. His crew was right. It was dangerous. Lightning, electricity, rain, it was a deadly combination. But Michael saw something in those clouds that mattered more than safety. He saw innocence calling out to be witnessed. He saw suffering asking to be acknowledged. He saw a reminder that we are part of something larger than ourselves, something that will hold us accountable for what we do and what we fail to do. So Michael stayed. He danced in the rain. He sang to the sky. And 90,000 people stayed with him, getting soaked, watching something they couldn't explain but could feel in their souls. The face in the clouds dissipated after a few minutes. The rain stopped. The sun came out. But the impact of that moment, the ripple of that decision to stay present in the storm, continues to spread. Environmental foundations were born that night. Children were helped. Trees were planted. Lives were changed. All because one man looked up at the sky, saw something impossible, and refused to run away from it. Michael Jackson performed thousands of songs in his lifetime. But the song he sang in the rain at Wembley Stadium, standing on a dangerous stage, staring at a face in the clouds that 90,000 people witnessed, that was the performance that mattered most. Not because it was perfect, not because it was safe, but because it was real. Because it was a moment when the boundary between performance and prayer disappeared completely. When an entertainer became a witness. When a concert became a congregation. And when we're brave enough to stand in our own storms, to look up instead of running for cover, we might just see what Michael saw. We might see the faces of those we've lost. We might see the innocence we're destroying. We might see the beauty we're forgetting to protect. And if we're very lucky, we might have the courage to stay, to witness, to dance in the rain, and to promise that we see them, that we hear them, that we will not look away. If this incredible story moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that magic is real, that the earth speaks to those who listen, and that staying present in the storm matters more than seeking safety in the calm. Have you ever witnessed something you couldn't explain but knew was real? Let us know in the comments. And remember, when the rain comes and everyone runs, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay, look up, and see what the universe is trying to show you.